on this computer. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Your Next Business Bestie. My name is Jenn Hart. I'm your host, and this podcast is all about introducing you to the people in my circle that I think you should know, partially because of their businesses, but even more so because of their stories. It's all about how this entrepreneurship journey can be really lonely. And we need people to lean on. We need people to celebrate with. We need people to reach out to when we mess up. And we need people to vent to. And when you're an entrepreneur, it can feel like you don't have those people. So this week I am super excited to welcome Paula to the show. Hi, Paula. How are you doing?
Hi, Jen. I'm great. Thanks. How are you? And thank you so much for having me on. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm great. Paula and I are newer acquaintances. It's been a couple months, right?
Yep.
Uh, we have a mutual friend, Megs, who will also be I talk about her all the time on the podcast. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But we started talking about branding and strategy. But it's funny because the first meeting we had, I felt like I just knew you. And we live, what, 1,000 miles apart from each other.
Something like
Um,
that.
but it was just, you're one of those people that I knew you were my people. Immediately I knew, and then I met with you and your wife, and like same thing. I think you guys are just amazing. I think your business is amazing, and like I said before we went on air, I'm excited to learn more about your story because we are just getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But also I just think you have a beautiful message to share. So why don't you,
Thank
you
you.
know, 10,000 foot level, what does Paula do?
Okay, so what do? I am a life and business coach, and I say that I specialize in self-love and authenticity. And the reason why I say that is because I find that my clients, no matter what they come to me for, is they lack self-love and they abandon themselves routinely and they don't choose and prioritize themselves. And so we work to move them through the points where they're stuck and love them back into life. So I'm a coach, and I am also a sound healer. I am a Reiki master teacher, and I also have a podcast called
All the
Scared as
things.
Fuck and Doing It Anyway, showing up authentically.
When Megs referred you to me and I saw your podcast name, that was the first instant that I was like, oh, she is my people. Like,
Right
absolutely.
on.
I love it. Okay, so let's take these bit by bit because
Yeah.
like me, you wear a lot of hats. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do these days because multiple streams of income and just we're so passionate about multiple things. And that old phrase like jack of all trades, master of none, I don't think really applies any to a point it does, but like
Yeah.
we're full whole humans and we can have multiple passions and we can turn those into multiple streams of income, which is beautiful. Right? Like all of these things are Paula, and I love that. Let's start with the coaching. So when did you start coaching? Who do you typically work with? That kind of thing.
So I started coaching in, I think it was April of 2021. I mean, really, I've been a coach all my life because I was in corporate America and was a leader in most of my 26 years in corporate. So, I coached people just in a different setting and,
Oh,
to different things. But, a life and business coach since April of 2021.
okay.
Um,
And what does
yeah.
coaching with you look like? What's your coaching program look like? Who are you working with?
Right now I'm doing one-on-one. And I get some referrals. I have several women who come to me for business. And then, like I said, I end up noticing, that they don't love themselves and that they abandon themselves. And so we work on their business, so they come for what they want and then I give them what I know they need, kind of a thing.
Love that.
Um, I am creating my signature 12-week group coaching program, which is going to be all around feeling worthy and whole. And so I'm, sitting in my fear, to be honest, a little bit about that. And I don't know why, because like in all of my corporate career, I taught, I trained, and I didn't have nerves about it at all. And now here I am in this space. And I think it's because I'm newer in this space and I'm not as deep of an expert as I was in my corporate days, or in my corporate job. But, you know, I'm getting to the end of that fear point where I'm just like so fucking sick of being scared of it that I'm just gonna do it anyway, you know? So,
Yes, yes.
um,
We were just talking this morning. I was telling you offline that I am meeting with some business owners on Wednesday mornings, and we were just talking about this morning actually with imposter syndrome.
yeah.
And what's funny in what you just said is you've been a coach for a very long time.
Mhm.
It's just reframing your coaching to the entrepreneur status, to doing it on your own, and suddenly there's this fear sitting in your fear, and right? It's doing it anyway. It's
Yeah,
being afraid, but doing it anyway. And just this reminder that, like, just because you're doing it on your own doesn't negate all of your experience. I mean, for me, when I started my business, most of my background was in direct sales. And direct sales or multi-level marketing has a horrible reputation. And
yeah,
there's a reason for that. I mean, there's people that just don't do it right. But I loved my time in direct sales. And it gave me the project management, it gave me the marketing, it gave me all of these things that I'm using now, the strategy. I was a little bit of a black sheep in the direct sales world. I didn't follow any of the shit they wanted us to do. No one will be surprised to hear that at all. But when I went out on my own, at first as a virtual assistant, I was terrified that no one was gonna take me seriously because it was such a change, and especially coming from direct sales. But it's the same thing. You've been coaching humans forever. It's just putting a different hat on in the coaching world.
right.
Talk to us about what's your vision for your group coaching for the 12-week program?
Like I said, it's going to be all around feeling worthy and whole because that's really what I, you know, have struggled with the majority of my life. So it is resonates and sort of aligns really closely with what my podcast is about, with showing up authentically, right? And so it's taking off the masks, and it's really learning how to love ourselves again and doing the work, the internal work to do that. There's going to be exercises around worthiness and sort of awareness exercises around it so that people understand, so women understand that it just hasn't come from us. You know, this has come from generations of women before us who have carried it forward. And really, again, yeah, feeling whole, like what makes us feel whole, and where that starts is with self-love, with taking off the masks, with stop abandoning ourselves, with getting rid of the good girl persona, and stopping all of the fucking shoulds. Oh, I should do this, I should do that, and instead doing what feels right for us. And yeah, and
What
reconnecting
is
with ourselves and nature, and because we are nature, and
mm,
yeah, all
this
that.
is this is why I adore you. All of these things. What does taking off the masks look like?
Well, you know, for me, I put masks on all my life in order to fit in. You know, like I wanted to fit in with this group or that group, or, you know, I wanted to climb the ladder in corporate. So I looked around me and said, okay, I have to act this way and dress this way and talk this way and, you know, or show up this way. And it's really stopping all of that and really coming at things from the inside out instead of from the outside in. Because when we are um, putting masks on to be accepted by groups of people or whatever, you know, we're abandoning ourselves in the biggest way, right? And then we're doing this to belong, and then we really don't belong there, and we don't belong to ourselves either. We belong nowhere when we do that. And that was just a big realization for me when I came across that, you
Yeah,
know.
and I mean, it's doing a disservice to not only yourself, but everyone around you that deserves to know the authentic version of you too.
Yes.
It's I've been on this journey the last few years of it would be unmasking. I've been put it that way, but it is exactly that. And showing up as my witchy tarot card, oracle card.
Yes.
I put on my stories the other day. My kitchen is always Halloween decorated. When my husband and I were getting married last year, we got married on Friday the 13th, and I wanted this skeleton rug. And I remember asking, and it's a ruggable. And people were like, but you can only put that out for like a month a year. And I was like, are you kidding? Like my kitchen's gonna be skeletons and moons and whatever year round. And that's something so small, but like my physical space representing like something that's not normal. I'm
Yep,
using air quotations for those of you listening. Um, it's just such a little simple way of pulling off one of those masks and being like, this is who I am. This is what
absolutely.
I love. So I love that phrasing. Where's your passion for this come from? What was your journey like to find these same authentic parts of yourself?
Oh my gosh. So, like, I became a completely new person when I started to love myself again and really be authentic and live from, again, from the inside out, live from my heart and follow my heart's desires. I mean, I was looking outside of myself all my life for like 35 years or more, and really just sort of became aware through my Reiki training and attunements. That's when I had my like big bang awakening, where I became aware of, I wasn't living my life for me at all. And I wasn't even dressing the way I really wanted to dress. I wasn't being who I really wanted to be. And it was like, no wonder I was unhappy and unfulfilled. And like I felt like something was deeply missing. No wonder why I felt so disconnected from myself. Like I didn't know, like I looked at my life and was just like, is this all there is? And it's like, no wonder, because I wasn't living as myself. And now that I am, like, it's so freeing, number one. I mean, that's where your greatest freedom is. It's just being who you are and not giving a fuck what everybody thinks, because, and letting everybody have their experience. And we're not going to be for everybody, right? We don't like everybody. Not everybody's going to like us, and that's okay. And I can sit here and say all this, and I still have a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of fear about my program, but yeah, I mean, that's where my passion came from, of living for so long, um, as trying to fit into all of these places and not ever belonging to myself. And there was just this, I was deeply unfulfilled. I had all of the things that they say should make you happy, but I was deeply unfulfilled on the inside. And now I follow my heart's desires, and I'm so much more peaceful on the inside. I have a happier life. I'm a better parent. I'm a better friend. I found my people, like, and I lost a whole bunch of friends in the process, and that's okay. And I just have this different life that's just so much more fulfilling and happy, and I love my life now. Like I have a life that I can't wait to wake up for every day. Whereas before it was like, oh fuck, another day, like I'm waking up like, okay, I got to go through the motions and do all the things. And now it's just like, I just go with the flow a lot more, and just, I loved myself back into life is, I
I
think, the
love that.
bottom line. Yeah.
It's really interesting as business owners too, because this idea of showing up authentically and the scarcity mindset we can have as business owners, that if I show up as myself, I'm not these people are not going to hire me.
Yep.
And that creates a lot of fear for a lot of entrepreneurs because, again, scarcity mindset around money, especially. But
Mhm.
there's this beautiful thing when you lean into who you are and the people you attract. I mean, as I said, I mean, especially since the beginning of 2023, I I like to say I threw my life into a blender and then I just waited to see what came out of it. And in that process, I got out of a toxic relationship. I reconnected with my husband. We got married within 6 months. Like I literally, people were like, "What the fuck are you doing, Jen?"
I
And I was like,
love
"I'm
it.
living my life." Like, and
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. I love my life. Like, not to say it's not stressful, not to say, but like I love my life, and that is a beautiful place to be in. And as business owners, I think there's this pivotal moment when you realize that when you show up as you 100% without any of those masks on, your business is going to be something that you love even more. Like I
Yeah.
am only working with people that align with who I am. That doesn't necessarily mean we have the same beliefs, but like they appreciate the crazy world that is Jen, and for them to choose to invest in you when you're being yourself, like that's incredible. Like
Yeah.
that's the ideal, right? Like we didn't
Yeah.
choose to be entrepreneurs to fit into somebody else's mold. That's why we're not working in a corporate office where we're working towards someone else's bottom line. We're doing it for us. And that's amazing.
Yes.
So let's take it back. So you and I are both, I mean, you're living your best life. I'm living my best life. And it's easy for us to sit here and say this. And let's talk 5 years ago when I was not in this place in my life. If I listened to us talking right now, I would have been like, well, good for them. Like, whatever. That's, what are they taking that's making them feel that way? Because it
Yep.
just doesn't feel obtainable. Where can someone, if someone is where you were, where I was, where they're fuck another day, where they're miserable, where they've put on these masks that are so plastered to their face that they're not even sure who they are anymore. Where do you start? What kinds of, activities can you do? What kind of self-reflection? Like, how does someone get started on this journey?
Well, I would say a couple of things. Start putting yourself at the top of your list, because when I started to do that, like it changed my life. Um, that is an act of self-love in and of itself, to put yourself first before everything else. And then also, allows us to serve from a fuller cup, everyone around us. So start putting yourself first. Become aware of your thoughts and your self-talk. And I mean um, like OCD kind of aware,
Um,
like you are obsessively aware of your thoughts and changing those. I would start some kind of a spiritual practice. I always recommend meditation, because it helps you reconnect with yourself. And it might be really challenging at first, but if you start with even just 5 or 10 minutes, it puts you on the path, right?
yeah.
Get quiet with it, help put you on the path to getting quiet with yourself, going internally, and just emptying yourself and letting yourself hear your intuition again and your higher self. And it helps you reconnect with yourself and start to answer the questions of, who am I? What do I want? What do I like? What do I believe? Because all of these, and then another big change is changing your beliefs. Really asking yourself, what do you believe? Because all these beliefs were just installed in us by our parents, by the adults around us, by educators, by doctor, whoever it is, all of the authorities, and I'm using air quotes, around us, told us all of these things to believe and ways to be. But what really feels right for us might be really different than what we've been living all of our lives and been told all of our lives. And so, that kind of a spiritual practice like meditation or breath work or something like that will help you reconnect with yourself and be able to answer those questions and know that it's okay, that when you first start to ask, who am I and what do I want and what do I like? It's okay to not know. It's okay to not know. Like it might take days, weeks even, or maybe even a month or more to start to really feel into those questions or answers and find your way. Like it's okay to not know, to be in that process of self-discovery and allow yourself to be there and allow yourself to go through it and give yourself grace in the meantime. Like not everything has to happen like that, you know. I always, say hiring a coach, and, I'm not saying I'm the right coach for you, but find one who is, because there is a reflection and a mirror that person provides that is like nothing else that you can get. You know what I mean? Like I never had even friends who I considered my good friends, they weren't necessarily being honest with me or reflecting back to me in the way that a coach will. Now I have friends who will reflect back to me in those ways. Some of them, but not even all of them will, because there isn't a comfort level doing it, but a coach will. And it's so important to have that mirror back to you to help you recognize what you're saying, like
Yeah.
what you believe, what you think about yourself, the old stories that you tell yourself that is just might be a bunch of bullshit, but it's just something that you've always said, and I could go on and on, but those are the things that I would start with. and reconnecting with nature, like getting out bare feet on the ground, not just taking a walk every day, like with your tennis shoes on with the rubber soles and your phone in your hand and the pods in the ears and all this. Like, no, like bare feet on the ground, or maybe you can kill two birds with one stone and meditate on Mother Earth every morning or something. Um, yeah, that's where I would start.
Love
But
all those things.
again, I have so many tools and practices that have served me. Self-love mirror work is a big one, like getting in the mirror and telling yourself, I love you. Like that was so hard for
Mhm.
me the first time. Tears were like streaming down my face the first time
You
that I
just
told.
reminded me of this video of this little girl that does affirmations. She's like 4 or 5 years old, and her mom has her repeat affirmations in the mirror. And that's something I keep meaning to start with my daughter, and I really need to do it because there's so much power in it, and there's so much to talk about what you just said. But being able to look yourself in the mirror is intimidating. Like I have really bad body dysmorphia, a history of eating disorders, like a lot of women do,
Yes.
and just being able to look at ourselves in the mirror and say that you love yourself is, it sounds so simple. All of it, here's the thing, I have found that all of this sounds so simple, but
Yeah.
it's simple, but it isn't easy, is what it comes down to. It's simple, um and like you said about having a coach, it's funny because my business coach was the first one to say to me, like, Jen, you're so witchy and authentic, and I love it. And she
Yeah.
was the first one to put that word witchy on me.
Yeah.
And growing up in the Bible Belt, I grew up smack dab in the Bible Belt in Texas. Um, and the term witchy was scary. And when it was my business coach that was the first one who put that label on me. And, there's labels also sound like something bad, but they're not always. And it gave me permission to
Yeah.
be witchy. It gave me permission to
I
be
love that.
who I already knew who I was. And she was my business coach. It wasn't even life coaching, but I think coaching is, it's hard because coaching, like I just interviewed Angie and I can't remember the statistic right off the bat, but listeners, if you listen to Angie's episode, she talked about the statistic of how much the coaching industry has grown and how it's expected. I think it was a 300% increase by 2030 is what it's projected. Because I had this feeling of like, oh, but everybody's a coach, right? But like coaches are so important and there's so many different types of coaches out there. Um, and for me, it was just that insight. She helped with my business incredibly, but she helped me see myself. Or she was the mirror that I needed, which
I
is
love that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Go ahead.
One thing I want to get back to is, you said all those things sound really simple and they are, but they're hard, it's not easy, and you're
Mhm.
exactly right. And so the other thing that I would just say about that is starting small, right? Starting small, because it's the small baby steps that you do with consistency that end up changing your life
Mm.
in, a few months even. And then when you look back a year, you're like, oh my God, that my whole life has changed and transformed. And so just do the baby steps and practice consistently, because it makes a huge difference. It's everything.
And like you were saying about not knowing at first, I think that's huge too, because when you decide, you make that decision to be more self-aware. And then, but you're like, shit, I still don't know who I am. And I think it's Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed, where she talks about her meditation practice. And I'm pretty sure it's the right book. I'll have to look back to be sure. But she talks about meditating in her closet and how it sucked at first, how she was like, what the fuck am I doing? And she was so brutally honest about it. So if you haven't read that book, Untamed by Glennon Doyle is one of my favorite books. I read it before I was a mom. There's a lot about being a mom in it, but even if you're not a mom, there's so much that's applicable. Um, and she talks about how hard meditation was at first. And meditation is something I really struggle with. I do better with like free form writing is a big thing for me. Uh, Stream of conscious writing, I think is what it's
Yeah.
called, and just getting the words out, or sitting with my oracle cards or tarot cards. And I think those are all forms of meditation. It's just a different type of meditation. So just a friendly reminder that meditation's hard for pretty much everyone in the beginning. You're not going to be able to sit still for an hour. You might never. I mean, I meditate well in the shower. So when I'm washing my hair, I will play a meditation. And that was I'll give a shout out to my friend Hannah, who's a meditation coach in Bozeman. And I did her meditation challenge. And that's what I found worked really well for me. because I need to
Nice.
wash my hair, right? That
Yeah.
needs to happen, and I want meditation to happen, so habit stacking is a big thing too. Like,
Yeah.
what can you build off from that you already exists in your world that's gonna make those little changes? And it's funny because little changes has become a theme of this podcast too. Like, no matter the industry that people are in, almost everyone has talked about how it doesn't have to be all at once. It's just these little things that, like you said, when you look back even a month from now, 30 days, you'll be amazed by the difference it can make in your life.
Absolutely.
Let's shift gears.
Absolutely. Okay.
Let's talk about Reiki and sound bowl healing. And
Okay.
let's take it back to the basics because there might be some listeners that have no idea what those two things are. So can you explain a little bit about what Reiki is, the benefits, and then some about the sound bowl healing as well?
Sure, sure. So Reiki, gosh, it's such a beautiful and gentle and powerful healer. I just love it so much. But Reiki is a Japanese energy therapy technique that reduces stress and promotes relaxation and promotes the body's own natural ability to heal itself. It's like energy work, it's touch therapy, it's spiritual, it's a spiritual practice, it's spiritually guided life force energy. It's compassionate and loving and never harmful, and always helpful. I mean, it's unconditional love. Like it's all of these things, right? And Reiki works with your higher self and your body's own intuition and intelligence to to help with whatever you need help with. It works on all of the levels: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic. It clears the energy body.
What's an
And
if someone has a Reiki session, what does the actual session look like? What can they expect from a session?
The receiver is laying down on a massage table. In the beginning, the practitioner will probably talk to you a little bit about why you're there and explain a few things. But the as a receiver, you're laying on a massage table, fully clothed, and your job is to just relax as much as possible. In fact, if you fall asleep, that's great because then there's for sure no subconscious blocking, of anything
Yeah.
happening. So your job is really to just relax. And then the practitioner, the way Reiki works is through channeling and intention. And so the practitioner is channeling the Reiki energy with the intention of giving it to the receiver. And I always have my clients set an intention to receive as well, so that there's that sort of joint intention. I feel like it just makes it more powerful. And then some of the things that you might experience during a Reiki session are physical sensations, visuals. You might experience temperature and pressure changes. You might have emotions bubbling up. You might have specific memories or conversations, going through your head. Nothing is, coincidence. It's all very, there's a reason for it all coming up in a Reiki session. And, most people really, when they're done with a Reiki session, what they say they feel is just very deeply relaxed. Like they've never felt as relaxed as that before. But really, it's a very unique experience. It can range from that to many different things. I mean, I've had people go into past lives on my table during a Reiki session. I have had I've had someone go back to coming into this life where her soul was coming into this life and picking her mother. So it can just be really, it can run the gamut and then anywhere in between. I've had very mystical experiences during Reiki sessions where I have a lot of religious trauma from when I was little. And I literally felt that energy leave my body, that trauma leave my body. And so it's a really, it's such, like I said, a very gentle, powerful, beautiful practice.
I experienced Reiki for the first time. I went to a New Year's yoga and energy healing, and I can't it was magical. But I remember, I kind of thought Reiki was bullshit for a long time, and that was my
Yep.
own blocks. And I remember this practitioner was coming around during the yoga class, and it was the first time I felt it. And the
Yeah.
first time you feel it, And I remember her telling me afterwards, she asked permission if she could tell me what she saw when she was working on me. And one thing was a fox that was like leaping over my body. And foxes are part of my totem. And
Oh,
then she also said she saw a polar bear curled up next to me. And it was really hard to find the symbolism for polar bears. But that was an awakening to me of the power of my subconscious. And
yeah,
from there, I did a full on session with her. I have a funny Reiki story and a like mystical Reiki story. So the first one, I did a full session with her, and I remember when I was laying there, I felt this like abrupt push on my right shoulder. Like
yeah,
I asked her afterwards if she had tapped my shoulder, and she hadn't, of course, but she said it was a symbolism of me releasing some of the masculine energy because, I'm a Sagittarius sun sign, but I have a ton of Capricorn in my chart. So I have a really hard time with going with the flow for myself. I lean very much into the masculine energy. And she was like, I feel like it's the universe giving you permission to release some of that. And
yeah,
that was really the start of me just, again, putting my life in a blender and seeing what came out was like, shit, I can do this. Like, just because this is how my life was the last 2 years, it doesn't have to be for the next two. And it was such a powerful awakening of my own power, is
yes.
the best way I can put it. But
I
the other
love it.
one, I had a Reiki session done a couple months ago and right here locally. And she was talking about how my seventh chakra was pretty blocked. And we were talking about ideas on how to keep it open
Mhm.
after the session. And she was like, a nice long shower, like spend some time, like, and massage your scalp and like let go. And this is funny. So, a long shower for me is like 20 minutes. I'm not somebody who spends a lot of time in the shower. So, I took this long shower. I washed my hair a little deeper. And then I have hair extensions, and the next morning, all my extensions fell out. And it was
Oh,
like a physical representation of
yeah,
that opening and letting go, which obviously I had them put back in. But it was so funny. It was literally, I was like, okay, universe, like, way to give me a physical representation of like letting go. And for me, it was like that I just needed that a long shower is okay.
yeah,
That taking that, like, as a business owner, as a mom and a wife and all these things, it's okay to take a little bit longer shower, and that can release. I mean, for me, that moment, it was literally tension, but just Reiki is a beautiful, empowering practice that once you're
yeah.
open to it, there's nothing like it. Let's talk about sound bowl healing. I bought a sound bowl when I hiked the Camino in 2022. I just sitting on my desk because I cannot play it to save my life.
Yeah.
But it's just a physical representation for me. So talk about the benefits. What is sound bowl healing?
So, well, and I go beyond the bowl, right? So I have many different instruments. I have an array of instruments. My favorite instrument is my new earth gong. So it's a planetary gong that's attuned to the frequency of the earth. And she is just beautiful and
Mhm.
magical. And so much healing happens with her. It's just amazing. But sound healing is really an ancient tradition that was used to treat many illnesses and conditions. And it's the frequencies and waves of sound calm the nervous system, and they balance the subtle body, and they really bring our bodies back into a state of homeostasis. And that's again where, similar to Reiki, where the body can do all sorts of healing in these relaxed states. Um, so how it works is through entrainment. So entrainment occurs when sound from one source causes other objects to vibrate at a similar frequency. So the nervous system entrains to the calming frequencies of the sounds, and as that happens, your whole body relaxes. And just as an example of what entrainment is, if you have two guitars next to each other or in the same room, and you pluck the C string of one guitar, the C string of the other guitar automatically vibrates without you touching it. And so that's an physical example of entrainment. And so that's what's happening with the frequencies, the waves of sound that are coming off of the instruments, and then what's happening in the nervous system. So sound is very healing. I mean, it can reduce chronic pain. It heals at all levels: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, just like Reiki. It can help with insomnia, anxiety, depression. Like I said, it can reduce chronic pain and inflammation. It does provide an increased sense of well-being. Sound baths are like, and even individual treatments, sound healing treatments. they uh they're rejuvenating, they're relaxing, they're meditative. um One of the recent testimonials that I got, I'll share it. This woman has been sort of numb on her left side for the last 20 years because 20 years ago she had a brain surgery and she lost some nerve endings, some feeling to nerve endings in that process. And so she's literally been numb on her left side for the last 20 years. She came to one of our Reiki sound baths because we do Reiki um, with the sound, which makes it even more powerful, both of them, together. But she felt her body tingling and twitching and moving like within that sound bath for the first time in 20 years. And so, she's obviously coming back and she felt the healing happening. Like sound is medicine, literally. It is medicine. And in the ancient traditions, it was used as such. And so we're bringing that back. And I love it. I love it so much. Like I said, I have an array of instruments. There's crystal singing bowls, there's Tibetan bowls, there's drums, all different types of drums, rattles, chimes, my gong, tuning forks, all sorts of instruments. Yeah. And we layer the sounds and we have a very intentional journey that we take people on. We have a theme, we plan out each sound bath. So that there is, like I said, a journey that we take people on that's very intentional, bringing them in and up and down and through.
Yeah. Drums are my favorite. I grew up going to powwows. So that's, when I talk about
Oh,
I have totem animals, the fox and the hummingbird are part of my totem. I used to, we have a very little bit of Native American heritage, but we grew up going to powwows and I grew up dancing in the circle and I would like,
oh
and
my
that
God,
was,
I love
yeah.
this.
And the drums just bring me back to the freedom I felt dancing in the circles and the embodiment of I mean it's no wonder I haven't thought about this in a long time, but it's no wonder that like connection to earth is such a big part of who I am now that I've, taken back those masks. My dog's chewing on my blanket behind me. um but powwows were such a huge part of my early childhood, and the drums, I think that that's the power of it for me, is it brings me back to those moments. Um, and it just awakens something in you. And
Yes.
so anybody listening, if you have never been to a sound bath, like if you're going to start like back to what we were talking about with starting somewhere with sound baths, like, and then journaling after the
Yeah.
shit that comes up, like that just, and I was in tears at one of my sound baths and it's just such a beautiful release. It's an incredible experience. How long have you been doing sound baths?
I've been doing them it's a little over a year now.
Yeah.
I've been going to them for longer, but I've been actually, hosting or facilitating them for a little over a year. And I was, helping certified sound healers in the beginning, and then I went and went through training and got my certification. And like I thought it was just another tool that I was going to be putting in my tool belt, and it was that training was just everything I didn't know I needed. And like in that training, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a much bigger part of my business and my practice than I ever thought it would be. And I just love it. Like it's so fulfilling to me to share it with people. Like especially like when I get in front of the gong, and people think of a gong and they think of just banging on the
Yeah.
gong. No, like this is like caressing the gong and drawing the sound out of the gong. It's like a cosmic experience. Like this is like if you have someone who knows what they're doing on the gong, you are going to be carried into another dimension,
Oh,
basically. Yeah,
all right. You and I could talk forever.
I know.
But we'll probably have to do a part two because you and I, it's so funny. Like you're just one of those people that like, it's just kismet. Like, I just feel like we've
Yeah,
known each other forever, past lives. I don't even know, but
something.
I know you went on your own journey, but where does all your passion for all of this go? What keeps you going? What's the fire when shit gets hard?
Oh, so staying true to me and helping others in the process, really. Sharing these beautiful things, these beautiful gifts that I have and the journey that I've been through to help uplift others, really, women especially, is what it is for me. And yeah, and that part about staying true to me, because like when I left my corporate job, I said, oh, if I have to, I'll go back. There ain't no fucking way I'm going back to corporate, no matter what. I don't care how fucking broke I am. It's not ever happening. I will do anything, before that happens. And so that's a part of the drive, right?
Yeah.
To make enough of a living to not have to do that too. But service, because that's really that I believe that that's really what we're here for. We didn't come to this lifetime on this earth right now to accumulate a pile of material things like they have us believing that will make us happy. What we came for is love and connection and community and serving others and living in harmony with nature and sharing our gifts with others to uplift the people around us. And I just believe in the power of women so strongly, and that we are what this world needs. Like more of us is what this world needs. And if all of us women were operating at our highest levels, like, oh my God, the different world we would be living in, we would have such a more loving and nurturing, society and environment and world. And yeah, so that's it for me.
I love it so much. And, we have to mention your podcast again before we wrap this up. So tell everybody, what is your podcast about? Again, remind them the name, where they can find it, but where's that all come from?
So the podcast is called Scared as Fuck and Doing It Anyway, Showing Up Authentically. And that showing up authentically is just the tagline. So if you search for Scared as Fuck and Doing It Anyway, that's how you're going to find it. It's on all the platforms, and it's about showing up authentically. It's about taking off the masks. It's about shedding the good girl persona. It's about, saying screw it to all these shoulds and, oh, I should do this and I should do that. It's about stopping the cycles of self-abandonment. And shedding the conditioning that tells us that we're selfish for putting ourselves first, because it is not selfish to put ourselves first. That's exactly what we need to be doing so that we show ourselves self-love, and so that we're serving others from a full cup. And it's about living our life for us and not for everybody else, because again, that's my most recent journey, and my whole awakening in the last 4 years. And so, yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. And where can everybody find you? How can they connect with you if they're interested in finding out more about your coaching, about your Reiki, about the sound healing? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
So I guess my website, reikiflowmn.com. And when I first started my business, I was just a Reiki healer. And so that's why my business is called Reiki Flow. And so I'm in the middle of rebranding to make sure that my brand and my business name encompasses all of the things that are me and that I'm doing. So stay tuned for that. But the website is reikiflowmn.com. And then you can find me on social, on Instagram. I'm Paula_Nicole_71. And on Facebook, I'm Paula Schuster. And I have a website for the podcast, scaredasfuckanddoingitaanyway.com. So any of those places you can get in touch with me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so, so much. I
Oh my
think
gosh.
you are such a beautiful soul. I am thrilled to share some of your story with my audience. I'm looking forward to continuing to get to know you. And I can't wait to see what happens with the rebrand and with everything. There's a lot of shifts happening in your world, and I'm really excited to see what happens with all of them. But it is an honor to have you on the podcast. So I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Jen. I love you and I love all the witchy things about you. And I can't wait for you to help with my rebrand. So thank
I'm
you for having me
excited.
on.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Your Next Business Bestie. Please take a moment to rate and review. It means the world. I get such a kick every time I see somebody else giving it a positive rating or leaving a review. It's so much fun. There's a lot of work that goes into a podcast, and a lot of vulnerability. So thank you to everyone who has been supporting this journey. I'm having so much fun with it. And if you're interested in finding out more about what I do as a creative strategist, I help entrepreneurs take their big ideas and turn them into reality. Or you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, or you know someone who should be on the podcast, please reach out, Jenn at jensway.com, or my website is jensway.com, two N's on Jenn, always. And I am thrilled to have you all as listeners, as watchers. I am just loving this community we're building, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So I will see you next time on Your Next Business Bestie. Have a wonderful day.